Hello, I'm Paul Pluta and welcome to Paul Pluta Prestige. Today I want to talk about the fabulous Breguet Transatlantique, and this is the Type 20 reissue which came out in the late 90s. And I've got to say, Breguet is a brand which I really hold dear to the heart. Anyone who knows anything about horology will know Breguet is one of the fathers of modern watchmaking. Breguet invented the tourbillon. They invented so many parts and functions of wristwatches and pocket watches that the modern watch would not exist today if it wasn't for Breguet. Breguet of today is, however, very different to the Breguet of yesteryear. Breguet is owned by the huge Swatch Group conglomerate, but Breguet has always been the jewel in their crown, and they've always respected Breguet, and they've always tried to uphold the values of the brand. Values that people like Arthur Rubinstein, Sir Winston Churchill, to name a few people who have adorned Breguets. Modern leaders around the world include the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, Patriarch Kirill. He's also a huge Breguet fan. Breguet also had Napoleon Bonaparte. I mean, if you wanted an arrogant French autocrat as a figurehead, you could get no better than Napoleon Bonaparte, who proudly wore a Breguet. And I believe he also had a Vacheron Constantin as well. Breguet. Now the interesting thing is, many people have said that the modern Breguet Type 20 is just a chance for them to release a sports watch. But this is really wrong. What happened is, in the 1950s, Breguet tendered for a military contract to provide a special chronograph for the French Air Force. Aéronvail is the French word for French Aeronautical Navy Air Force. And the thing is, the Transatlantique itself follows this very closely. In the 1950s and 60s, Breguet won a contract to provide a special chronograph for French military use. It needed to be a certain size, hence the reason the Breguet Transatlantique is 39 mils. It needed to have a flyback chronograph function. It needed the eyes for the minutes to be a certain variation. These were all things dictated by the French military contract. And the modern Breguet certainly is a true pilot's watch. In fact, one of the founder's sons went on to found the Breguet Aircraft Company. And it was quite interesting to note that some pilots in the 50s and 60s would have been flying Breguet aircraft whilst wearing a Breguet chronograph. The Breguet Transatlantique is very similar to the Breguet Aéronvail, except that it has a date feature at the 6th position. Both watches feature an automatic Lemania-based movement, which is exclusive to Breguet only. It features a flyback feature, which means the chronograph does not need to be stopped in order to be reset. There are a few other trim variations. The Breguet Aéronvail has a polished bezel, whereas the Transatlantique has a matte finished bezel. There are a few minor differences like that, but basically they are the same watch with a date function. The Breguet Transatlantique was sold with either a leather strap or a metal bracelet, just like the Aéronvail was provided with either option. Personally, I think the leather strap is classy and gives the piece a bit of historical significance. The interesting thing is the size of the strap is 21 mils, which is almost impossible to get a third-party strap which will fit that as well as accommodate the Breguet deployment buckle. Breguet itself is such a fantastic brand, and I love my Breguet Transatlantique with all my heart. It's a true sports watch. Okay, let's do the scoring. For the brand itself, it's going to get an 8. The status in the range, an 8. The movement, an 8. The overall quality and workmanship, an 8. The Paul Pluta Prestige rating, I'm going to give it an 8. All up, 40 points. The Breguet Transatlantique scores 40 points.